never married old man with no teeth in his head. He puts soup into water before he goes to bed. Or an old man he is old.
The last concert that Green Ginger were able to play was in Atlanta in November 2018. Since then, travel restrictions have meant that we couldn't get together again. And we thought, what do we do? Well, we know a lot of interesting people, so why don't we get together and have a chat with them and find out some of their interesting stories?
Before I'd even done any gigs or anything, I just started busking on Camden Canal because my parents worked in Camden Market and I figured I'd give it a go. And I started busking there and eventually with a terrible £50 guitar or something. And then I took part in this, it was this competition called, I think it was called the Big Busk. It's run by the Mayor of London and you apply and you go and kind of busk in lots of spots all over London. And if you make it to the next stage of the competition, I didn't win or anything, but if I made it to the stage where you got fast tracked to apply for a license on the Underground, which is incredibly competitive and they make you wait for years normally to get a license there. So I was just really lucky with my timing. Well, up until the lockdown hit, I was busking pretty regularly, to be honest. Pretty much every week, I did that as a kind of supplement to my gigs in folk clubs and venues and things like that. And it's just been really nice because it's allowed me to have, obviously as a gigging musician, sometimes gigs can dry up a bit or you'll have a time where you won't have any bookings and that can be a bit kind of worrying. But when you've got your busking license, I'll be like, well, I'll just pop down to Baker Street and I'll busk for a few hours and it'll be fine. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. The best spot on the Underground, Tottenham Court Road, at the end of that long tunnel going to the Central Line. Everyone fights over that one. So if you're there, you can make a couple of hundred in 2 hours, but that's like a really good spot. Otherwise, it's enough, and it varies. If you're like my closest station was Baker Street, which was a pretty average station, but if you stuck it out for a few hours, you could definitely make enough to get by. So it used to be that people would just turn up and it was all chaotic. Now people are always surprised to hear how well regulated the whole system is. There's an online booking system, and every Tuesday morning we queue up online to get into the website, book our slots. So it's all very civilized now, yeah. For busking, I've just kept it really simple. I have a little Roland amp, and then my mic, and my guitar. Just trying to remember, it's been a while. Yeah, my guitar just plugs straight in. It's pretty simple. I mean, some of the buskers are purists, and they can't even think about being amplified at all, which I kind of respect, But it's also when the tube gets so busy, it's almost impossible to be heard unless you're.
Live high, and if you want to live low, live low. 'Cause there's a million ways to go. There are.
Judd, can I just take you back a bit to the Irish thing?
Sure.
You're seventh generation Maine.
Yes, true.
So all your family came from Maine. So where does the Irish bit come? I mean, we know that you have, quite a lot of ancestry in America is Irish. Did you check yours, or did you just like the music?
I just like the music. I feel like there's a tradition in Maine and the Maritimes, Canadian sort of Maritimes, of that. English, Scottish, Irish, that folk tradition, I think, comes down. You think of Cape Breton, for instance, in Nova Scotia, where Scottish fiddling tradition preserved so unchanged that Scottish fiddlers started traveling from Scotland to Cape Breton to learn the real old traditional ways of it. So the music got planted in the Northeast, to my understanding, a good long time ago, and it feels like it kind of feels like it's in the water here. It kind of feels like it's in the air here, and I don't know. I sort of fell in love with it. My first instrument. Yeah, go ahead.
Where did you get "Pour Me a Guinness" from? I've never heard that.
I wrote it.
Hey,
hey, maybe that should be our first tune we do. I wanted to play that song for you.
It's there for me, I tell you.
Great.
All at once, that's the one I've played 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should. What do you think? Are we going to play some songs? If
Yeah,
so, how can you have a better segue than that?
Play it.
So, and I'll give you the whole. So the song was based on. So I had started playing more Irish music and playing more Irish pubs and learning the Irish traditional songs, and I played tin whistle as well, and was just sort of fell in love with it and was doing more and more of it. And I thought as a songwriter, I should write my own Irish traditional song. and so I studied the canon, right? And I decided that Irish music is principally about poor decision making, often as it relates to food and drink, often, not always. And I was reminded of this story. I was reminded of a comment a friend of mine made once, and so I just thought I would work it into song. Poor Mike Maguire got drier and drier as he sat and he stared at the beer in his hand. I pulled up a chair and I asked him his trouble. He said, "You never have seen such a fool of a man." Before I went to the bar with this pint glass for filling, old Patrick, he asked me, "Well, is it more of the same?" And it must be the devil was up on my shoulder, for I ordered this Budweiser much to my shame. Now it's pour me a Guinness, never a bitter, a brown or a red. If ever I order a pale or a porter, promise me, Patrick, you'll do as I've said and pour me a Guinness instead.
I only started writing music when I came to South Africa, and it was really by default, because wherever the British have spread into the diaspora, they've taken their folk songs with them. And I did a show at our Grahamstown Festival, which is like an arts festival here, like you have Edinburgh Festival. And I wanted to find some folk songs that had been brought across. And I couldn't find any. So I wrote some.
Yeah. Well, a traditional folk song I wrote just last week.
I was going up to I was returning from a gig in Petersburg to Johannesburg, and the sun was setting, and that became Over Africa.
There's nothing quite as lonesome as the sun going down over Africa. Flying in a piper with the sun going down over Africa. Slowly, oh so slowly, see it sinking. A ball of fire in the cool grey sky, see it sinking. Now an orange halo encircles the earth over Africa. A halo of color encircles the earth over Africa. Slowly, oh so slowly, see it fading, leaving the cool grey sky, see it fading. See the stars gently coming out over Africa. High in the heavens, the stars coming out over Africa. Slowly, oh so slowly, they start shining. Far away in infinity, see them shining. There's nothing quite as lonesome as the sun going down over Africa.
Come smugglers, come thieves, come men at large. I offer you great sanctuary with a life lit by the stars. Come villains and come thieves, and come those in toil, and better life awaits you. And with me you share the spoils. Now we sing hooray, and up she rises. Let out the sail, come draw the anchor from the ocean. Let good times prevail. It's hooray, and up she rises. Boys come to see you share the bounty and the riches. If you join with me, we sing hooray.
How long have you been playing in folk clubs?
I think it's about 4.5 years. I'm not entirely sure, because there's kind of like an interesting transition from open mics, and then I found Cambridge Folk Club. I think about 4.5, maybe 5 years ago. I went there and did the open stage, and kind of just sort of fell in love with it instantly, and thought that this is where I need to be. But I'd spent a couple of years before that kind of playing in bars and busking and doing lots of different stuff, trying to find the sort of more receptive audience. But that was the first one that I came across where people were kind of willing to listen to the stories behind the songs.
Yeah, but okay, Chris, you've finished the story now. That's not the only thing you found at the folk club at Cambridge, because when you walked out, what happened? What were people saying?
Oh yeah, I remember the first one I went to. So it was an open stage, and you had all these different types of music. I had like Cajun music, blues music. Someone got up and played a saxophone. Two girls got up and sung a Russian aria. You know, like an opera piece of music. Someone sung some traditional English folk, traditional Irish folk. A guy got up and did a Boran solo. And as everybody was leaving, it's kind of like a running joke now, but as everybody was leaving, and I found this at loads of folk clubs, people were all kind of bitching about how everybody else didn't belong there, like all of the styles were wrong. And I thought I just walked into paradise. I thought, this is great, because I love all this type of stuff, and it's just it's a perfect fit for me, you know, because I don't really sort of play in one particular style. And it was like heaven. I thought it was wonderful, but everybody was kind of really cross. They're like, oh, these guys aren't folk, and that's not folk, and they need to stay at home, and all of these different types of things. So it was a very eye-opening experience.
Rainy day on a beach in California. Your first offense and heartbreak, and no one warned you. It's a gospel church without the sound of glory. Well, I'm telling you, it's two sides to every story. I'm telling you, it's two sides to every story.
But there's something very different about Nashville. I think the moment you arrive, you can just feel it. I mean, unfortunately, it was CMA Fest the first time. We've been to Nashville more than once now, but the first time was CMA Fest, and it was people everywhere.
It's a very different experience.
That was a bit overwhelming. So it was nice to go back and do it properly last year when it was just a normal week. But yeah, it's lovely to know that you are completely surrounded by musicians. Everybody you speak to plays or sings or knows somebody.
Yeah, and they're very welcoming of people coming in, particularly from overseas. We played a string of dates out there in November last year, and mostly alongside American artists. And you know that it does feel a bit like that Coles to Newcastle kind of situation, but actually that was the opposite of what we got. And even in the run up to it and organising the gig, speaking to the promoters and the venue managers, they were like straight away, yeah, we're interested. You know, we'll give you a spot. So that was Nashville as a town, I think, has sort of fallen into two bits, in as much as, you know, the traditional music writing, music producing side of Nashville is very much still there. But that's kind of propagated out a bit of the downtown. And now, you know, Broadway, they call it Nash Vegas. You know, it's a party town. it's Blackpool, if you like. There's a lot of stag do's and hen do's, and people there for a good weekend.
It's
Why
lovely.
not?
During the day, it's lovely. I absolutely love
Yeah.
Broadway during the day, but at night, I can't stay too long.
Why, when you're playing your two guitars, every time I see you, you've got one of your trouser legs rolled up? Why?
That's actually to hold the guitar. It requires a lot of leg strength, that kind of gym leg strength where you're kind of squeezing your legs together. But it also on a regular trouser leg, the guitars just kind of slip through. So I only do that when I'm about to throw the guitars and catch the guitars. And the reason I do is it just provides a bit of friction to catch the guitar. Otherwise, the guitar slides through my legs when I try to put it to my legs, because it's quite a quick thing when that whole thing happens. And if I can't really focus on one bit of it at the time. I can't think, well, this guitar is doing this and this guitar is doing this. They have to do everything without me thinking about it. So if I leave the pant leg down, and I know this because it's happened a couple of times, and I've had to send my guitars to the shop with the end pins shoved up into the body of the guitar. So like, the guitar will slide through the legs, and it kind of bounces off the ground where it plugs in. And so it shoots that jack up into the side of the guitar. So I roll the pant leg up just to stop it on the way down.
You've answered one of my questions already, which was...
What's that?
You're known for the, like the percussive style and the two guitars, but I gather you broke a lot of guitars.
Man, a lot.
In the early days. And kind of, you've answered it. You dropped the bloody thing.
When I first really started out, my first, I guess, 2 or 3 years on the road were probably my most expensive as far as guitars. I was playing really cheap Seagulls at the time because I was buying them. I didn't have any kind of guitar endorsement at the time. And so I kind of got over I figured out exactly how hard you could hit the guitar and where it would take the beating as well. But that first couple of years, it took a while. If you can find the videos online and these would have been from like 20 years ago now, I'm playing guitars that actually have bits of duct tape on the top of it, and that's just to reinforce the spots where I know it's going to crack.
In relation to Lonnie Donegan?
That's my dad.
No, not really.
Lonnie's my dad.
Really? Wow. What the who? We did shows together, your father and myself.
I know, but you're okay now.
You got your father's sense of humor.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's great.
Dad was my best friend, so it was always going to rub off.
You know the song that your father wrote for me?
I do indeed.
Come on, let us hear it.
Can we do it together?
Actually planned the duet with Tom, or did it just come happen literally?
No, it's exactly as you see it. I mean, the only thing that you miss is obviously where they've edited out afterwards is the break where I've done my introduction song, Bless the Broken Road, Tom's turn, blah blah blah. Then I go down and shake everybody's hand. That's lovely. Welcome to Team Tom. And that's when the discussion happened. And then there's, of course, now we stopped filming for a second because, you want to do the song? Okay, great. And I turned to the band, do you know it? And they're like, we know of it, but we can't just do it now. But you know it. Well, I got the piano. You can use the piano. And I'm like, oh, right, okay. Asking Tom what key, all that kind of stuff. So they edit all of that bit out, And then the fact that we actually performed the full song, not not how it appears, because if we did the full 4-minute number, I mean, they'd have to do an extended version of The Voice, it's just so. I've had idiots saying to me before, they go, yeah, but how did you, there's no way that you would have all known when to cut it in and the band came in so soon. I go, no, idiots. We sung 3 choruses, actually. I said, but they edited that. I said, yeah, but then when did you perform this one? That's that. I said, but it's been edited after we did it. But they don't get the process.